Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Woodman and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will dive into the attack on Pearl Harbor and how that crisis would not only increase tensions with Japan, but also negatively affect how Japanese Americans were treated in the United States. This is important because we start to see Japanese Americans have their civil rights limited because there was a fear that Japanese Americans were bad people since Japan attacked the country. Let's talk about what happened here. On December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan. Here was the response from the United States. Quote, "Don't say we didn't warn you. This has been coming for a long time, but did anyone listen to us? The Japanese turned out to be every bit as sneaky as we said they were. They attacked on Sunday morning at the same time their diplomats in Washington were discussing ways to resolve our differences. They have no honor. The Japanese in this country are all potential saboteurs and enemy agents. Some are Japanese soldiers and sailors posing as farmers and fishermen," unquote. However, there was not a shred of evidence that anyone in the United States of Japanese descent is anything but patriotic, hardworking, and loyal to the United States. On the other hand, the United States government said, quote, "That's what they want you to think. Japan intends to invade the United States, and anyone who does not see that is a fool," unquote. There would be news headlines that say so many negative things about the Japanese and their plans to take over certain parts of the United States, such as California, but those headlines were totally made up. Investigators were sent to the West Coast, but they reported the Japanese were loyal Americans, even willing to fight against Japan. Still, at least FDR's administration got Congress to pay attention. They sent a committee to San Francisco to hold hearings. They had one of their brightest young office holders, their attorney general, present the facts to the congressman. Earl Warren, future California governor and chief justice of the Supreme Court, was assigned to locate and map all Japanese occupied land and compare it with important installations in the relevant vicinities. When the survey was complete, Warren forwarded the results to the Army. It seemed that just about everyone in California lived near something that Warren classified as an important installation. In Warren's transmittal, he wrote, quote, "The Japanese situation as it exists in California today may well be the Achilles heel of the entire civilian defense effort. Unless something is done, it may bring about a repetition of Pearl Harbor," unquote. Warren was later guilt-ridden for his anti-Japanese activities, which may well have played a role in his spearheading the 9-0 vote in Brown versus Board of Education. Still, that did the trick. Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which authorized the removal of anyone deemed a threat from designated zones. Thousands of Japanese Americans were already in custody, arrested in the days and weeks following Pearl Harbor, accused of no crime. They would soon experience a much worse fate, sentenced without trial. In one of the most shameful episodes in the nation's history, more than 110,000 Japanese, two-thirds of them United States citizens, were removed from their homes and shipped to what American authorities themselves called concentration camps. Most would remain there for almost 3 years. During that time, not one American of Japanese origin was accused of any act against the United States. All Japanese were ordered to report to depots with only what they were able to carry. They were herded onto buses or railroad cars and taken to barbed wire enclosed compounds. In parts of the West, few white people thought fit to live. Many would have their homes destroyed, their businesses ransacked, and their farms taken over by whites. Almost all of those who were in prison remained fiercely patriotic Americans. Thousands of young Japanese men even joined the United States military. They were not allowed to fight in the Pacific, but in Europe, the 442nd became one of the most highly decorated units in the American military, including 21 men who were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, even though their families were forced to remain in concentration camps. But not everyone obeyed the order. There were a couple of American citizens who decided to fight their detention in the Supreme Court. Here is some information about them. Min Yasu was 23 and had graduated from law school. He was also a lieutenant in the ROTC, which stands for Reserves Officers Training Corps. He tried 9 times to enlist in the regular army, but he was refused. He deliberately violated the curfew and then walked into a police officer and demanded to be arrested. After he was convicted in district court, He was held in solitary confinement for 9 months. Gordon Hirishibayashi attended a YMCA leadership conference at Columbia University and became a Quaker. He turned himself in to the FBI in Washington to create a test case. He was held without bail for 5 months and then convicted in a trial where the jury deliberated for all of 10 minutes. Fred Korematsu was working as a wheeler in a shipyard, but was fired after Pearl Harbor. His reason for refusing to register, he didn't want to be separated from his Italian-American girlfriend. The Hirabayashi and Yasui cases were decided in 1943, but only on whether the government had the right to set a curfew, not whether it was constitutional to intern American citizens who had not been convicted or even accused of any crime. Chief Justice Harlan Fiske Stone said, quote, "The Japanese had been largely shunned by whites, which tended to increase their isolation and in many instances their attachment to Japan. So a wartime curfew that applied only to them was justified," unquote. However, Japanese Americans were allowed to be discriminated against because they had previously been discriminated against. Stone responded, quote, "It isn't discrimination to protect yourself against a foreign enemy," unquote. The real test was the Korematsu case, which would decide the legality of imprisoning innocent American citizens. The Supreme Court put that one off until 1944. Justice Hugo Black said, quote, "It is the opinion of the court that compulsory exclusion of large groups of citizens from their homes, except under circumstances of direct emergency and peril, is inconsistent with our basic governmental institutions. But when under conditions of modern warfare, our shores are threatened by hostile forces, the power to protect must be commensurate with the threatened danger," unquote. However, it was unclear what the threatened danger was. Not a single Japanese American had been found to be in any way disloyal to the United States. The decision was not unanimous. 3 justices issued stinging dissents. For one of the justices, Justice Robert Jackson said, quote, "The court for all time has validated the principle of racial discrimination in criminal procedure and of transplanting American citizens. The principle then lies about like a loaded weapon, ready for the hand of any authority that can bring forward a plausible claim of an urgent need," unquote. As you can see, reacting based on fear made the federal government act on impulsive decisions that not just went after Japanese immigrants, but Japanese Americans. It was a dark moment in history where the federal government intentionally brought any Japanese person they found and detained them in camps. The government essentially used guilt by association as their justification for targeting Japanese Americans because if someone is Japanese, then they must automatically be associated with Japan. This belief, along with the previous tensions that were occurring before the Pearl Harbor attack happened, boiled the hate and disregard for Japanese lives in this country. One more thing I want to point out is while there was an external war happening between the United States and Japan, it was unclear what internal crisis was going on in the country with the Japanese already here. Because there is a lack of specific guidelines in the US Constitution about what counts as emergencies that justify limiting civil rights for people living in the country, it creates an opening for any bad actors in the government to label a situation as an emergency and use that emergency to limit people's rights. For the Supreme Court, they ruled that in times of war, protection must be a priority, even when it means limiting people's civil rights. Imagine saying that we have to protect the country by going after a specific ethnic group because we think they are a threat. For the Japanese internment camps, it was not protection, but rather violent acts on innocent people. No matter who someone is, they are still human beings, and we have to treat each other as such. In the next video, we will look at what immigration laws and reforms were like after the post-war era. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the change maker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.